Hello everyone, this is Adnan with another video on Server 2016. In this video, I'm going to show you how to work with DHCP. DHCP is Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol, and DHCP basically is a service with which we can automatically assign IP addresses. So in this lab, the architecture is that we have two servers and one client, and the server number one name is 360 Cloud Serve 01, 360 Cloud Serve 02 is server 2. This is the IP configuration, and both servers are so one of the servers has Active Directory inside, and but no DHCP. So we're gonna configure DHCP right from the scratch, and so the steps will be, we will go through DHCP installation and then DHCP authorization. The DHCP must be authorized once it is installed, and then we will configure DHCP server. So DHCP server will be our first server, this server, and the scope we are going to create is 192.168.10.1 to 254. There will be two exclusions. First 20 IP addresses won't be used, excluded, and the last 15 IP addresses, 14 IP addresses will be excluded. For DHCP options, we don't have a gateway, but we are going to use DNS server. So and at the end, we will test that if this client is able to receive an IP address from DHCP. So let's get started. So what we are going to do, I am in VMware Workstation. I have two servers, server number one, server number two, and the client. Let's log into the server number one and install DHCP. So DHCP is being installed. I'm logged in. Make sure before you can install DHCP that all the three machines, these two servers and this client, are pinging each other. They have proper IP configuration, and in order to do that, you can follow the lab infrastructure building lab before this, in which you will create two servers and one client, and make sure that they are pinging and the firewalls are off. Now the first thing is that there is no DHCP. If DHCP would have been here, then you would have seen DHCP right here. So on this server we don't have DHCP. Let's install DHCP server. So go to add roles and features, and go to next and next and one more time, and here you will select DHCP. So once DHCP, you will select DHCP, nothing else to be selected. Right here I'm gonna say restart this machine if restart is required. Now this is the DHCP installation. So once this is done, then we will go through DHCP configuration. So while DHCP is being installed, let's check through basic ping. So I'm gonna check that if all these machines are pinging each other. So, and I'm gonna also log into server number two. So server number two, and I need to ping this server. So going back to our architecture, so right here, let's ping the other. First of all, I'm gonna ping the other server. The other server IP address is 192.168.10.12. It is pinging, and let's ping the client machine as well. So the client machine is 10.20, or let me see if it has a different IP address. So I'm gonna log in. So in the meantime, while that machine is logging in, DHCP is still being installed. and DHCP is installed. So once the DHCP server is installed, you can click here either, or you can go to this flag. Let's say to complete the DHCP configuration, I can close this down. You can also get it open right from here. Always keep an eye on this flag. If it is this triangle, yellow triangle, it means that there is some task needs to be done. So the second step in, so first DHCP installation, the first step in configuration is authorize this DHCP. Make sure you're logged in with administrator account. So I'm logged in with administrator account. Basically this administrator account is and make sure it is enterprise admin as well. So normally when you log in for the first time, it is enterprise admin with the default administrator account. So here, if everything is fine, it will give you done, and sometimes it gives you error message as well. And the reason it gives you error message, because you might not be logged in with the right credentials. If it gives you error message, you can log off from the server and make sure you logged in with domain/administrator. So in this case, DHCP is authorized. Now I need to manage DHCP. So in order to manage DHCP, we are going to create a scope. So this is the scope we need to create. So the scope will be this. So far we completed the installation, we did authorization. Now we are going to create this scope. So in order to create this scope, all you need to do is go to tools and DHCP manager. In this, the very first thing we need to make sure that you should have a green tick right here. So you can also authorize if you are not, if you forgot to authorize from the configuration wizard, you can also authorize it from here. But here, if DHCP is showing unauthorized, then it means that it's not authorized. You need to authorize the DHCP. Now in order to create a scope, all you need to do, create new scope and next. Here we will name this scope 360 cloud. That's your organization name, and this is main office. So this is main office scope, and next, and here I'm gonna now enter the scope start. So scope start address, which is 10.1 and 10.254, and the subnet mask is 24. And here exclusion, so based on our requirement we need two exclusions. So one is from 1 to 190. First 20 IP addresses we want to exclude from the scope. What is the meaning of exclusion? Exclusion means that these IP addresses won't be automatically assigned to any other machine through DHCP. So, and why do we do that? We need to keep some IP addresses from the scope, from the 254 IP addresses for management services. Okay, so I've created the exclusions, and here the lease time is 8 days. I'm going to leave that as is. And here it's saying, do you want to create a DHCP option? If I say no, then it won't ask me to enter the DNS address. Here I would say I need DHCP scope to provide DNS as well. And here I go next. In the real environment, you might have a router IP address that you can set up here. Where do you get the router IP address? You can get it from your network team. But here we're not going to use any gateway address. The reason is, in one scope you don't need a gateway. If you have multiple scopes, if you have multiple subnets, or if you have multiple networks, then you would need a router. In this case we have only one subnet, we don't need a router. We'll leave that as blank, but we do need DNS, and it automatically got the DNS IP address. In case you don't have it here, then you need to type your DNS IP address. So why did it automatically took this address? Because we are logged into the domain, and actually this is the domain. Even if you have installed DHCP on another server and it's joined to Active Directory, this IP address it will automatically take. And in this, no win server required, and scope is activated. So scope is activated. Here I see a blue mark. You need to just keep refreshing this, make sure that it turns to green. Now here is our scope, and in the scope what we have is, in the scope I have the pool. It starts from 1 to 254. It has 2 exclusions and there are no address leases. So once the scope starts working, it is actually working, and once this client or any other machine try to get an IP address from DHCP, here in the address lease you will see these IP addresses. So let's go to a client and let's see if we will be getting an IP address. So first of all, let me go into CMD and see that if this machine has a static IP address. If your computer has a static IP address, you need to make sure that it has need to turn it to address. You need to change it to your it to a dynamic IP address. So here I am opening command prompt. So command prompt is open. And here ipconfig, so it has already taken an IP address. I'm not sure, so it has some IP address from 10.120. I think this is a static IP address. You need to go to open network and see that if it is it's a static or dynamic IP address. Go to Ethernet. First of all, you need to right click on this properties, then you need to go to Ethernet and here change adapter settings. Okay, so we are not going to go from here, but we can go from control panel. So control panel, and from control panel we can go to network. From here we can go to network and sharing, go to change adapter, and from here let's go to this properties here, and we'll go to TCP IP. Here, yes, it is getting IP address from it is a static IP address. I need to change it to obtain IP address automatically. Also change this and press OK and save this, and now go back, and here we are going to run a command called ipconfig/renew. So once you do, it will go out and look for a DHCP, and it did receive an IP address 21 from DHCP. Now this went smooth and it got the IP address from our DHCP. In order to make sure if this IP address is from DHCP, we can go back here in address lease, we can refresh this, and we can see that our client 02 has received an IP address from there. So this is how we can install DHCP and configure a client. Now just a little tip, while working with VMware, sometimes VMware is in VMware you need to disable the local DHCP of VMware. So you can go to virtual network editor, and with a virtual network editor, once it is open, you need to make sure that your NAT address, this network, doesn't have DHCP. So if this is enabled, then your DHCP won't be able to provide IP address. In order to fix that, you can select NAT, then change settings. Once you change setting, come back here, uncheck this, make sure this is selected, because sometimes when it comes back this is selected. So this is host only. You need to make sure your NAT, and here this is unchecked. Once it is unchecked, everything will run smooth. So thank you for watching this video. In the next video we are going to see how to do IP reservation in DHCP.